Listen, the reason the 3D feels so real is because you can see it, you can touch it, you can measure it, and you can point to it. But just because something is visible does not mean it is permanent. What you see around you right now is evidence of who you have been, not necessarily who you're becoming. Your current reality is often a delayed reflection of your past thoughts, past reactions, past habits, and past identity. And that is where most people get trapped. They look at what is happening now and they use it to decide what is possible tomorrow. They let an old result create a new belief. Then that new belief recreates the same result. That is the cycle. The 3D shows them something they do not like. They react emotionally. Their reaction strengthens the old story. Then they experience more evidence that appears to prove the old story was true. But the story was not necessarily true. It was simply repeated. A belief does not have to be true for it to control your life. It only has to feel familiar. And familiarity is powerful because the mind often mistakes what is familiar for what is safe. You can be miserable inside a familiar identity and still resist becoming someone new. Not because the new life is worse, but because the old life is known. Your nervous system knows how to be that person. It knows how to expect disappointment. It knows how to overthink. It knows how to check for evidence. It knows how to prepare for rejection. It knows how to doubt the moment something good begins to happen. So when you say you want a new reality, understand this. You are not only asking for new circumstances, you are asking yourself to become comfortable being a different person. And that is the real work. Most people are trying to manifest a new life while emotionally remaining loyal to the old one. They say they want love, but they keep identifying as the person who is never chosen. They say they want success, but they keep identifying as the person who always struggles. They say they want confidence, but they keep checking the room to see whether everybody approves of them. You cannot consistently live beyond the identity you keep returning to. You can feel powerful for 1 hour. You can watch an inspiring video. You can repeat an affirmation 20 times. But when the 3D shows you something uncomfortable, which version of you takes control? The new version who knows, or the old version who panics? That moment is where your identity is revealed, not when everything is easy, not when the evidence agrees with you. Your identity is revealed when reality appears to contradict what you have decided. Anybody can believe when the result is already visible. The real test is whether you can remain loyal to the new story before the evidence arrives. That does not mean pretending you don't have emotions. It does not mean denying what is happening. It does not mean looking at a problem and calling it something beautiful. It means refusing to let temporary circumstances define you. You can acknowledge a situation without giving it authority over your identity. You can say, yes, this is what I see right now, but this is not where my story ends. That is not delusion. That is direction. You are deciding which reality receives your mental energy. Because whatever you repeatedly feed becomes psychologically stronger. Every time you constantly check whether something has changed, you reinforce the belief that it probably has not. Checking is rarely neutral. Most of the time, checking is doubt, looking for confirmation. Think about it. When you genuinely know something, you do not keep checking every 5 minutes. You do not plant a seed, dig it up after 10 minutes later, and ask why has it not grown. You understand that there's a process happening beneath the surface. But people do that mentally all day. They decide what they want in the morning. By lunchtime, they are searching the 3D for proof. By the evening, they have already concluded that nothing is working. Then they change techniques. They change affirmations. They change routines. They change their goals, but they never change the identity that keeps expecting failure. The technique is not always the problem. Sometimes the person using the technique is still deeply committed to the old assumption. You can repeat, "I am confident," while spending the entire day looking for evidence that people do not respect you. You can say, "Money comes easily to me," when reacting to every expense as if your life is collapsing. You can say, "I am loved," while mentally investigating every message, every silence, and every change in someone's tone. Your dominant state is not determined by the sentence you repeat. It is revealed by the story you return to automatically. What do you assume when nobody is reassuring you? What do you believe when the room is quiet? What story appears when you have not seen any new evidence? That is the story shaping your experience. And the good news is that a story can be changed. But you must stop treating every thought like a command. A fearful thought can enter your mind without becoming your identity. A doubt can appear without becoming your decision. An emotion can rise without becoming a prediction. You are allowed to feel uncertain and still choose a powerful assumption. That is emotional maturity. It is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to stop letting fear write the ending. The old version of you may still speak. That does not mean you have to obey. It may say, "Nothing is changing." You can answer, "Change is not always visible while it is happening." It may say, "This always happens to me." You can answer, "That was the old pattern. I am no longer using it to define myself." It may say, "What if it doesn't work?" You can answer, "What if I stop abandoning myself before I even give it a chance?" You do not need to fight every negative thought. Sometimes fighting a thought gives it more importance. You simply need to stop building a home around it. Let the thought pass. Return to the identity you chose. That return is the practice. You may have to return 10 times today. You may have to return 100 times. That does not mean you are failing. Every return is a repetition of the new identity. Every return is a vote. Every return teaches your mind, this is who we are now. Transformation is not one dramatic decision. It is a series of quiet decisions that nobody else sees. It is what you tell yourself after rejection. It is how you respond when the number in your bank account frightens you. It is what you assume when the message has not arrived. It is whether you interpret a delay as a denial or simply as a delay. Most suffering is not created by the event alone. It is created by the meaning we attach to the event. A person does not call you back. That is the event. They do not value me is the meaning. A business opportunity takes longer than you expect. That is the event that's happening. I am never going to succeed is the meaning. You make a mistake. That is an event. I ruin everything is the meaning. The event may be temporary, but the meaning can become an identity. And once it becomes an identity, you begin looking for more evidence to support it. That is why you must become aware of your interpretations. Ask yourself, what am I making this mean about me? That one question can expose the entire pattern. Maybe you are not afraid of the circumstances. Maybe you are afraid of what you believe the circumstances says about your worth. Maybe the silence does not hurt as much as the story that says you are unwanted. Maybe the financial setback does not hurt as much as the story that says you are incapable. Maybe the slow progress does not hurt as much as the story that says you are falling behind. But your circumstances do not have the authority to measure your worth. A delayed result is not a verdict of your potential. A difficult season is not a permanent identity. One chapter is not the entire book. Stop turning moments into definitions. You are not failing because something has not happened yet. You are not unworthy because somebody could not recognize your value. You are not powerless because the outside world has not caught up with your internal decision. The 3D often has momentum. Old habits have momentum. Old relationships have momentum. Old expectations have momentum. When you change internally, the external world may not rearrange itself instantly. There may be a transition period, and during that transition, the old reality can become loud. That is when many people quit. They assume the old reality is becoming louder, and it means the new identity is not working. But sometimes the discomfort simply means you are no longer willing to fit inside the old pattern. What once felt normal begins to feel unbearable. What you once tolerated begins to feel wrong. What you once chased no longer satisfies you. That is not always regression. Sometimes that is evidence that your standards are changing. You are becoming aware of what no longer matches you. But you must be careful. When the old life feels uncomfortable, do not run back to it simply because it is familiar. Familiar pain is still pain. Known limitation is still limitation. You do not have to return to an old identity just because the new one feels unfamiliar. Unfamiliar does not mean fake. Unfamiliar means new. Confidence may feel unnatural when self-doubt has been rehearsed for years. Receiving may feel uncomfortable when struggle has become part of your personality. Peace may feel boring when your nervous system is addicted to chaos. Healthy love may feel suspicious when inconsistency is what you learn to expect. Do not confuse discomfort with misalignment. Sometimes discomfort is simply the feeling of expanding beyond your old self. The question is not, does this feel completely natural today? The question is this the direction I have chosen? You are training your mind to accept a new normal. That takes consistency, and consistency is not perfection. Consistency means you stop using one bad moment as permission to return to the old life. You could have a difficult morning and still be changing. You can doubt yourself for 10 minutes and still be committed. You can react emotionally and then correct yourself. Do not turn one reaction into a new identity. The old version of you will say, see, you reacted, nothing has changed. The new version says, I noticed it faster and I returned faster. That is progress. Progress is not always never being triggered. Sometimes progress is shortening the amount of time the trigger controls you. It used to ruin your entire week. Now it affects one day, then maybe 1 hour, then possibly 10 minutes. Eventually, you notice the pattern before it becomes a reaction. That is mastery. Not becoming emotionless. Becoming aware enough to choose. You do not need to control every single event. You need to stop allowing every event to control your inner state. That is your power. Your power is not forcing the world to behave. Your power is choosing who you are while the world is still rearranging. Because when you know who you are, you stop negotiating with every circumstance. You stop asking rejection whether you are valuable. You stop asking delays whether you are capable. You stop asking somebody else's behavior whether you deserve love. You stop asking your past whether you are allowed to have a future. You decide, and then you practice living from that decision. Living from the end does not mean sitting around fantasizing all day. It means allowing the fulfilled version of you to influence your choices right now. How would the confident version of you speak? How would the disciplined version of you use the next hour? How would the secure version of you respond to silence? How would the successful version of you handle a setback? How would the love version of you treat themselves today? Your new identity must become practical. It must enter your conversations. It must enter your schedule. It must enter your boundaries. It must enter the way you speak to yourself when nobody is listening. Otherwise, it remains a fantasy instead of becoming a self-concept. You cannot affirm that you respect yourself and then repeatedly abandon your boundaries. You cannot claim a disciplined identity while negotiating with every promise you make to yourself. You cannot claim that you are worthy while constantly begging people to recognize you. Your behavior teaches your mind what you truly believe. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build self-trust. Every time you honor a boundary, you reinforce self-respect. Every time you stop chasing what does not choose you, you reinforce your value. Every time you act before you feel completely ready, you reinforce courage. Identity is built through evidence, and you have the power to create new evidence through small actions. You do not need one giant breakthrough. You need enough repeated proof that your mind can no longer deny who you are becoming. Read the page, make the call, record the video, go to the gym, apply for the opportunity. Say no when you mean no. Rest without calling yourself lazy. Speak to yourself like somebody whose future matters. These actions may look small, but they are identity votes. You are showing yourself, I am no longer waiting for permission. And that is when the relationship with 3D begins to change. You stop staring at reality and asking, who am I? You begin telling reality through your standards and actions, this is who I am. The external world becomes feedback, not authority. You can learn from it without worshiping it. You can adjust your strategy without abandoning your vision. You can admit that something is not working without concluding that you are not capable. That distinction matters. Changing your assumption does not mean refusing useful information. It means refusing destructive conclusions. If your plans needs improvement, improve the plan. If your habits are inconsistent, change the habits. If you make a mistake, correct the mistake. But do not turn correction into self-condemnation. You can take responsibility without attacking your identity. In fact, the strongest identity is able to face reality honestly. Real confidence does not need to avoid the truth. It knows the truth can be used. It says, this is where I am, this is what I created, and this is what I am choosing next. No shame, no performance, no helplessness, just awareness and direction. You are not stuck because the 3D is too powerful. You are stuck when you keep allowing the 3D to tell you who you are. The circumstance appears and you agree with it. The delay appears and you become discouraged. The rejection appears and you become rejected. But rejection is an event. Rejection does not have to become an identity. Failure is an event. Failure does not have to become who you are. Being alone is a circumstance. Unlovable is an interpretation. Stop confusing experience with identities. You have experienced things that hurt you. That does not mean you must continue becoming the person those experiences created. You are allowed to choose again. You are allowed to say that happened, but it does not get to keep happening inside of me. Because sometimes the event that ended years ago, but the identity created by the event is still ruining your life. The person left, but you still expect abandonment. The business failed, but you still expect embarrassment. You were criticized, but you still silence yourself before anyone gets the chance. You are reacting to past experiences. The original moment is gone, but the assumption remains. This is why inner work matters. You are not changing the past. You are changing the meaning the past continues to have in the present. You are taking your power out of an old moment and placing it back into your current decision. You cannot always choose what happened, but you can choose whether what happened becomes your permanent definition. Your past may explain your patterns. It does not have to excuse keeping them. At some point, healing becomes a decision to stop rehearsing the identity built in survival mode. You survived by expecting the worst. You survived by staying guarded. You survived by shrinking yourself. You survived by reading every room. And maybe those patterns protected you once. But a survival strategy can become a prison when the danger is gone. Thank the old version of you for getting you here. Then stop asking that version to build your future. The person who survived the past may not be the same person who creates the next chapter. Creation requires a different state. It requires openness. It requires self-trust. It requires the willingness to move before certainty appears. It requires you to stop demanding that the outside world change first. Because if you keep saying, I will feel confident when people approve of me, then people control your confidence. If you say, I will feel secure when the money arrives, then the number controls your security. If you say, I will feel loved when that person chooses me, then that person controls your worth. You have placed your state in the hands of the 3D. Take it back. Choose confidence before applause. Choose discipline before results. Choose self-respect before recognition. Choose peace before everything is resolved. That does not guarantee that every situation unfolds exactly as you imagined. It guarantees that you will stop losing yourself while you wait. And sometimes that is the manifestation you needed first. Not that thing. The version of you who is capable of holding that thing. Because receiving something is one challenge. Maintaining the identity that can keep it is another. You can attract an opportunity and still sabotage it if you believe you are not ready. You can enter a healthy relationship and still create chaos if peace feels unfamiliar. You can earn more money and still lose it if lack remains your dominant identity. You can become visible and then hide because attention activates old fear. The goal is not to change circumstances. The goal is to become internally compatible with the life you say you want. That version of you is not obsessed with checking. They are occupied with becoming. They are not sitting at the window asking when life will arrive. They are not building the capacity to meet it. They are strengthening their habits. They are cleaning up their self-talk. They are protecting their attention. They are making decisions from standards instead of fear. They are not perfect. They are committed. So the next time the 3D shows you something you do not like, pause. Do not immediately create a conclusion. Do not turn a moment into a prophecy. Take a breath and ask, what would the old version of me make this mean? Then ask, what meaning would the new version choose today? The old version may say, it's over. The new version may say, I do not know yet the full story. The old version may say, I am not good enough. The new version may say, this is feedback, not a definition. The old version may say, nothing ever works for me. The new version may say, I am learning how to respond differently. That small pause can change the direction of your entire life, because your reality is shaped not only by what happens, but by who you become in response to what happens. Stop allowing old evidence to renew an expired identity. Stop checking the past and calling it your future. Stop asking temporary circumstances to tell you what is possible. The 3D feels real because it is visible, but your vision, your standards, your choices, and your inner identity are the forces that determine where you go next. You do not have to deny reality. You have to stop surrendering to it. See it. Learn from it. Respond intelligently. But remember that what you see today may simply be the final echo of who you used to be. Stay loyal to the person you have chosen to become, not only when it feels powerful, not only when the evidence is positive. Stay loyal when nothing appears to be moving. Stay loyal when the old story gets loud. Stay loyal when your emotions ask you to return to what is familiar. Because the moment you stop needing the 3D to reassure you is the moment you stop being controlled by it. You are not waiting for reality to give you permission to change. You are changing and allowing reality to catch up. Master your mind and change your life. If you found value in this video, subscribe for more. Thank you for watching. I will see you soon on the next one.